what's up, everybody? Good morning. It is Saturday. Rise and shine. Get up. This is Multifamily Unplugged. Glad that you're here this morning, and I am excited about today's guest. We're going to talk about 1031 exchange, and a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a while. It's been a long time since I had somebody on to talk about that, so I'm looking forward to that. But what are you doing this weekend? Intentionally, what are you setting for yourself? What are you planning to do? Clean the gutters, do some work. I always talk about our intentions, right? What do we need to do to move us along personally, grow personally so that we grow professionally, right? We're in a volatile time right now. Is there something maybe you need to learn or go educate yourself on, something you need to get a handle on to understand the markets, understand markets maybe you invest in or where you're headed with your investments? But whatever that is, we need to be intentional. So whether that's something in our personal life, something in our business life, you're going to start the week out with no intention. By Friday, you're going to end up, with nothing accomplished, right? So take that time. I always take Sunday night. I spend some time. I get prepared for the week, figure out what I need to do that are top things to get done. And then also those hard things. What do you have in your life? Maybe that's a hard ball that you need to roll up the hill. Maybe make a tough phone call. Maybe go see somebody that you need to go see. Whatever that is, be intentional about. Hey, if you're here for the first time, welcome to the show. Glad that you're here. Multifamily Unplugged here every Saturday morning, talking about multifamily investing, how to scale your business. So if you're a brand new investor, how to get in the business, how to do small multifamily all the way up to large, huge apartment complexes, and put great teams together to do that. So you're going to have a lot of topics, a lot of information every week. Be here and learn what you can learn. If you are new and you're on YouTube this morning, please hit the subscribe button and follow us, because there's always new content every day, all day long. We bring stuff to that platform for you to learn more from. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, like us, love us, follow us here, and we'll make sure that we bring you pretty continued content. So my guest today is Michelle Fitzpatrick. She's with Northern 1031 Exchange. She's from Boston. We had a couple of little conversations about great clam chowder before we started, or before the show here. So I'm looking forward to bringing her in. Let me bring her in real quick. Hey, Michelle, how you doing today?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. It's early, huh?
It is indeed. Wake up Saturday.
You have your coffee?
Yes, I did. I'm ready to go.
Hey, good to see you. I know that you and I have been trying to do this for a while now, and I dropped the ball and we missed calls, but we're finally here. So I'm glad that we were able to get this done, because I think this is a really important topic. And what we're going to talk about today is a strategy, right? An investing strategy that people can use to create wealth for themselves down the road. And that's what I always try to help people do. So
yeah, in 1031 Exchange, our tagline is preserve your profits and help build your wealth faster. 1031 Exchange is a great tool to do exactly that.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to digging into it. But before we get there, I always ask my guests in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
I don't want to sound cliche, but I am brutally honest.
Okay.
And that's a
two words, by the way.
That is 2 words, but brutally had to get in there because sometimes that's not such a good thing. So yeah. But brutally honest.
Yeah, good. What makes you brutally honest?
I don't like wasting my time. I don't like wasting other people's time. I really like to have a clear understanding and make sure that we're both on the same page. So I don't like beating around the bush. I really just don't have time for it. I just don't have time to to play games with people. So I think honesty is really the best way to achieve that.
So, I really think that that's it. That's really something that is powerful, not only in business and your business life, but in your personal life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's what I want to teach my kids. That's what I really try to instill in my kids. I'd rather them just tell me the truth than lie to me. I'd rather accept the consequences of what they're doing than having them lie. That's the worst part.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, well, let's get into it. How about a little background on yourself?
Sure.
How'd you get into 1031 and, what's your history?
Yeah. So I got my real estate license back in 1999, 2000. I started buying real estate myself. So, I graduated from college and moved back home, saved literally $10,000 and bought my first 2-family house. And then I realized really quick that I was in this real estate game. At 22 years old, I was able to refinance a house that I had owned for 6 months and pull out 40 grand, which might as well have been $1 million to me. I mean, that was like, and then I bought another house with borrowed money. I realized really quickly how great real estate was. So I got my real estate license just honestly to buy and sell my own properties. I did my first 1031 exchange probably about 5 or 6 years after, and realized, oh, so there's a tool here that's going to help me even more, that I can buy bigger and better properties and find properties that work better for me, that cash flow better, that might be in better locations, that might have more improvements in them that I didn't really want to do or couldn't afford to do. So that was always my side job. I've been in banking now more than, I hate to say 20 years, but I've been in banking for more than 20 years now. And I came to Northern in 2014. And in 2015, the president decided that he wanted to start an exchange division. And I was a perfect fit for it. So we started the exchange division in 2015. We were working with a lot of our clients that were buying and selling at the time franchises. So as you stated, I'm from Boston. Boston, we have a big Dunkin' Donuts. Do you guys have Dunkin' Donuts in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dunkin', but yeah.
So Dunkin', they are on every corner in Boston. And we have a nice little niche in the bank where we do a lot of lending to Dunkin' Donuts clients. So back in 2015, they were able to exchange franchises. So we did a lot of Dunkin' Donut franchises in 2015, 2016. And then when tax reform came in 2017, we weren't able to do, the IRS took personal property out of the exchange, out of the tax code. So we were stuck with just doing real estate. So really since 2017, we've been doing just 1031 exchange transactions for real property. And here we are now 7 years later, and it's been a great business for the bank. It's been a great business for me.
Awesome. So, man, there's so much I want to unpack. I wrote a couple of notes down, but so you got your real estate license to do your own transactions. Did you sell any real estate?
Yeah. So I exchanged properties and got into better properties. So I was doing exchanges and selling properties at the same time.
Got it. Did you, do you have to be a real estate agent or broker to do the 1031 exchanges?
No. So I was doing it. You do not. Okay. And almost everybody is not. I was doing it just because I wanted to earn the commission while I was. Okay. So rather than paying commission, I was earning it.
All right. So is your job title then, are you called an intermediary?
That's right. So Northern 1031 exchange is a qualified intermediary. And when you do a 1031 exchange, the IRS requires that you have a qualified intermediary facilitating the exchange for you.
So so let's just hone in on that piece, right? A lot of my listeners, this might be new for a lot of my the listeners this morning, but let's just hone in on that piece, that intermediary piece. what is the activity that you participate in the exchange?
So we facilitate the exchange. And what that entails is we handle all the paperwork. So we make sure that the exchange is documented properly. It shows that the exchanger is meeting all the timelines that are required. And we'll get into the timelines a little bit.
Yeah.
Most importantly, we hold the proceeds. So the IRS says that you cannot have constructive receipt of your funds. So you need to have an intermediary holding those proceeds. Now, being a bank-owned qualified intermediary, people definitely have a sense of security and safety utilizing somebody that's bank-owned as opposed to another qualified intermediary that isn't. So we're owned by the bank. We're audited just like the bank is. All of the funds are under dual control. So it really does give that level of security that people want.
Remember I said we might wind up in a rabbit hole trying to
That's a rabbit hole.
Well, here, but I'm going to jump to another one right now. So question about Northern Trust Bank. I know it's one of the oldest banks in the country, right? And
well, there is a Northern Trust. We're Northern Bank and Trust out of Boston, which is different than the larger institution.
Okay,
we are a family-owned and operated bank out of Boston. We've been around for 65 years, and the qualified intermediary is a wholly owned subsidiary.
Got it. Okay, good to know. So now is that now can you only do exchanges in Boston or on the East Coast, or can you do nationwide exchanges?
We can do exchanges nationwide. Last year, I think we did exchanges in 38 states. So we exchange everywhere. I am personally based out of Boston. We actually have a team that's based out of North Carolina that helps facilitate our exchanges. So when we started the exchange company in 2015, we hired a qualified intermediary that has been in the business for 25 years. He came with an abundance of knowledge and information, and he had a team of admins that help process the exchanges for us. So him and his team work out of North Carolina for the bank.
Okay.
And we all work together.
All right. So now we talked about intermediary, but now you said qualified intermediary. So now let's talk about that terminology.
Sure. So a qualified intermediary, that's actually, excuse me, that's actually what it's called. I'm going to take a drink too.
You're good.
So a qualified intermediary, that's actually what it's called. Unfortunately, the industry is not regulated. So anybody can hang up a shingle and become a qualified intermediary, take your deposit in, and facilitate the exchange. There's nothing, there are some states that have some sort of rules and regulations around it, but there's no nationwide licensing or qualifications to become a qualified intermediary. So we always tell our clients, qualified intermediaries aren't all created equally. So it's important to do your due diligence. And our trade association, the Federation of Exchange Accommodators, really gives people that sort of validation. So you should become a member of a trade association, that trade association.
So I want to circle back to where I was kind of headed somewhere with this Northern Trust question. So we all know the environment we're in right now. There's a lot of talk about banks being in trouble and issues going on. And, how does Northern Trust fare in that right now? How does your bank, are you guys on a watch list or not on a watch list or,
Yeah, we are not on a watch list.
Okay, good.
We're still bank-rated. We still have 5 stars in Bankrate. We are a true community bank. All of our investments, the majority of our investments are in loans. So specifically in commercial loans. So we're not going out and doing any sort of risky investments in Bitcoins and crypto and things like that. Our money is on the streets in our
hard asset.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Well,
we've been been dealing with this for the last 2 weeks because every bank has seen that sort of fallout from SVB. So we offer services in products that allow people to get FDIC insurance 100% of their deposits. So
awesome. Yeah, I heard, do you know who Dave Ramsey is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I heard Dave Ramsey the other day, and I'm not a fan. I don't like a lot of what he teaches or talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard him the other day, and I said, wow, he really nailed this. But he was talking about these banks, and he basically said, if you aren't a big player in a bank, if you weren't involved in crypto or some offshoot of the Bitcoin era, if you didn't grow in technology too fast in a short time and make a boatload of money and put it in a bank that invested in some other things, your money's okay, and not to worry about it, right? That it's those types. And he broke it down this way. He said, if you're not a player, you're okay. It's the bigger ones that kind of got in trouble or are in trouble. So
I would say the big banks. I wouldn't say players, because I think that there's a lot of small banks that do a lot of great things for their community. So
yeah,
I would say that we are, in our community in Boston, we are a player, and we are putting money out on the streets every single day. So we're making a huge difference, just not on a large scale like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I guess it's the terminology I don't agree with, but he's
kind of. It was just kind of interesting though, because he brought it into perspective and said, hey, listen, don't worry about your money in the bank. It's insured. Yeah. Most people don't have $250,000 in a savings account anyhow.
Right.
And I'm a syndicator, so I've had investors come to me and say, hey, listen, what's going to happen with our property? And I've said, what do you mean? Well, these banks are failing and there's problems. I said, first of all, the government's not going to let all the banks fail.
Right.
Second of all, our money, we pay to the bank because we owe money, right, on this asset. So we're paying. So even if the FDIC did come in and take over that bank, we would get a new servicer and just pay our money to that new servicer. So
right. They're not calling the loan immediately.
Yeah. It doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect our asset. We're in good standing. So it falls back on us as the vendor or the customer. But
it has been, I got to tell you though, it's been a crazy 2 weeks, and I went through it in banking in 2009, but this was a crazy 2 weeks. People it happened so quickly, and I was shocked by it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember 2009. It's funny you bring that up. I remember in 2009 watching the news and seeing local banks here in Chicago, and they showed, they had, the news was out there filming as the FDIC walked in and locked the doors behind them,
Right.
And it was like, holy cow, this stuff is real, right? Going on. So, so I understand the concern of people, but I think a lot of times general population, the public, get overly concerned about things that they just don't have enough information about.
It's all a media. A lot of it's just a big media hype. They're getting just bits and pieces of information.
I always say that if the media would dig their teeth into everything's okay, that the whole world would change. So.
We can, again, that's another rabbit hole we can go right down.
Right, exactly. I see we're on the same page on that. But, anyhow, let's talk about 1031. Let's talk about the process. Yeah. I have a piece of real estate that I'm selling, and I want to defer my taxes. Right? Is basically what a 1031 does. Keeps me from being liable for capital gains today. So can you take it from there? And
I can. Absolutely. So,
are you ready to skyrocket your investment portfolio and leave a legacy? Are you tired of inconsistent returns received in the stock market? Then it's time you take a look at alternative investment options like a passive investment in multifamily real estate. No tenants, trash, or toilets. Just a solid return on an annual investment, including quarterly returns along the way. These lower risk and secure assets are also a great hedge against inflation. If you want to hear more about these types of opportunities, email me directly to schedule a 15-minute consultation to see if you qualify. You can email me at mike@mycoreintentions.com.
What people should understand is that a 1031 exchange is only going to defer your taxes. It's not going to eliminate them. So you're kicking the can down the road. You're bringing your tax basis from one property over to the next property. So, I mean, honestly, the ultimate goal would be to die with your property. And then your heirs get the stepped up in basis and everybody wins. But that's, exchange until you die.
Well, Warren Buffett said the best time to sell is never.
What else are you going to put your money in, though?
Yeah.
I always think it's funny when people call me and say, oh, I'm going to sell my property and I'm going to, I just want the cash. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do with it, though?
Yeah.
There are so many different types of real estate that you can invest in that are going to actually serve your purpose. I don't understand why you would ever pay 30 to 35% in taxes and then invest whatever was left over. So I agree with Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
So,
and you just said it right there. You capsulized it. You said, why would you pay the capital gains and then invest?
It doesn't make sense. You know how long it's going to take you to make that 35% back up?
Yeah.
So we'll go through, the taxes, because I get a call. I talk to people every day and they're like, you know what? I think I'm going to just pay my taxes. I'm going to sell the property. I'm going to pay my taxes and I'm going to be done. Because it's only 20% or it's only 15%. And that's just not the case, unfortunately. There are multiple taxes that go into your capital gains. So there's the federal capital gains tax, which people are right. It's either 15 or 20%. Most people fall into the 20% range because what happens is when you sell a property, it gets that revenue or that money gets added to your income. So you're bumped up into that 20% range pretty quickly, especially in Boston and I'm sure in Chicago too. Prices are very expensive. People get bumped up into 20% easily.
Yeah.
There is the Massachusetts, and I'm sure Illinois has one too, but Massachusetts has a state tax of 5%. So here we are at 20%, 25% right now. There is a tax called NIIT tax, Net Investment Income Tax. It's a federal surcharge. It's for Medicare. And that has been probably it's like an Obamacare Medicare tax. So it's been in existence for 10 years or so. And that's 3.8%. So now in Massachusetts, we're up to 28.5%. And we also in Massachusetts, I don't know every state has this, but Massachusetts just put into law in January 1st, 2023, that there's a new millionaires tax. So any dollar over $1 million is going to be taxed at an additional 4%.
So any gains over $1 million or
any income over $1 million is taxed an additional 4% on top of the 5%.
Isn't that amazing? I mean,
we just voted it in.
So you're paying money you're paying taxes when you earn your money, and you take your money from your job, you save it, then you pull it out, you invest it, you're taxed on it again.
I cannot even believe you're preaching to the choir. I can't even believe that we just voted this in. This is and it affects almost all of my clients.
Yeah.
And our average exchange, I mean, we do exchanges that are 300,000. We do exchanges that are $90 million and everything in between. But so many people are selling $1 million asset. It's not that uncommon. Our average exchange, I think, is $1.2 million. And that's just for a 2-family in Boston. So, so we have the millionaires tax. So, some of these people, here we are, we're just inching up. Now, where the big problem is that people don't understand is that the IRS will recapture any depreciation that was taken at 25%. So, if somebody has owned a property, they depreciated, let's just say they depreciated over 10 years, $100,000. The IRS is taking $25,000 of that back right away. So
on the exchange or just in a normal transaction?
If you just sell.
Okay.
So by doing an exchange, you will defer all of those taxes, including the depreciation recapture. So it's a no-brainer. All of those will add up to easily 35%. And sometimes people are getting more than that. So, I mean, you sell for a profit and you sell and don't exchange, you're 30% down right off the bat.
Okay. Nice call. Great talking to you today.
I know it's terrible, right? But the good news is, so I deliver the bad news, but then I become the hero, and I'm like, but I have a solution for you. I can fix this. Like, we can get you into something. We can get you to exchange.
I used to tell my assistants all the time, look, problem's fine. We're going to have problems, but come to me with 3 solutions.
That's what I do.
Let's go.
This is why I love my job.
Let's go.
Yep. This is why I love my job. I feel like everybody that works with us, they're like, this was great. I'm so glad I didn't know about it. I'm glad that either my attorney told me about it before, or my realtor told me, or my CPA. I'm so glad that somebody told me about it, because it really isn't something that the average investor would know about.
Yeah, it's kind of a hidden secret. And let me just ask, from a global or not a global standpoint, but nationally, do we know how much money is exchanged goes through this process on an annual basis? How big is this industry?
Billions and billions. Okay. Yeah, billions. I mean, we are very small. We do 300 exchanges a year. There are title companies out of Chicago that do thousands and thousands of them a year. So
do I need to, if I'm selling my personal residence, can I exchange into my next personal residence?
No. So what is excluded from a 1031 exchange is your primary residence, second homes, any personal property. So you cannot exchange a personal residence. But the good news about that is that you get a tax exemption for your primary residence. Right. So you can take advantage of a primary residence tax exemption for $250,000 per person, $500,000 for married people. And you can take advantage of that every 2 years. So you don't have to exchange.
Okay, great.
So an exchange is just for investment purposes, investment properties, or business properties that are used for business use.
So I know there's some variances in this. So so can I exchange from a single family home into an apartment building? Can I exchange from a apartment building into a single family home? Can I go from an apartment building to a commercial building? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that is a great question. So that's the like kind myth is what we call it.
I'm the question guy, by the way.
I love it. And I have all the answers. Just come at me, Mike. No, that's the like kind myth. So to sum it up, you can exchange real property for real property that is held as for business use or investment purposes. The type of property doesn't matter. So absolutely, you can exchange a condo for land, for an apartment building. You can exchange an industrial building for a retail shop. It doesn't matter as long as it is real property for real property that's used for investment or business use.
So could I exchange from a single family rental to a houseboat?
No, because a houseboat is not deeded. So that is considered a houseboat considered personal property. However, we have done multiple exchanges on boat slips that are deeded boat slips. Oh. As long as they are renting those boat slips and not using them for their own yacht and living in that yacht, they can absolutely do a deeded. We've done deeded boat slips, deeded parking spots, but the houseboat is considered personal property.
Interesting. So it's not just real estate then. Yeah, there's other things that you can exchange, right? Can you artwork or?
Not anymore. So that was taken out of the code. So personal property was taken out of the code in 2017. So it really is just real estate. But like I said, because the parking spots and because the boat slips are deeded, those are considered real estate.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
So you use the word, it's 1031 exchange. Is that the only type of exchange out there? Or is exchange used in any other terminology?
Yeah, so 1031 that's the IRS code. So it's the 1031 code and it's called like kind exchange.
Okay.
And yes, that's all that's available. The the tax code, when you said it earlier that you think maybe it's like a little bit of a loophole or things that people don't know about. But what's kind of funny about it is that the tax code started in 1918. That was when the IRS put the first, or they, came together and put the first taxes together. And it was in 1921 that 1031 became part of the code. So it was literally just 3 years later. So there's been a need for it since the beginning of taxes. And it's been in the tax code now 102 years. So it's been in the tax code as long as the tax code's been in existence for the most part. So it's really not this secret or this loophole. It's necessary for the real estate industry. It's a necessary component. It's what's making real estate continue. It's what's making investors sell properties, other investors buying properties in renovating them, and continuing that economy and continuing that real estate to flow through cities. That's how cities grow, is through 1031 exchange.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk about the timeline. So how does it work? What are the mechanics behind it?
So the IRS isn't going to give you everything for easy. You have to work for it. So there's nothing super easy about doing this in such a time frame. So the IRS says from the time that you sell your relinquished property, so from the time that you close, you go to the closing table and the proceeds come to us, you've deeded the title or direct deeded to your seller, your buyer, your time starts. Your clock starts ticking. So you have 180 days total from the time that you sell to the time that you have to take title to your replacement property. Now, that's kind of the easy part of it, because 180 days, that's 6 months, that's pretty easy. Where it's hard is that you only have 45 days to identify a replacement property. So from the time that you sell your relinquished property to the time that you have to identify a replacement property is only 45 days. That's hard because you have to give us, your qualified intermediary, a list of properties that you want to purchase. And you have to purchase one of those properties off the list or your exchange fails. So, and the IRS has very specific rules and guidelines on how you can identify property.
Interesting. So, Michelle, I'm a syndicator. I bring multifamily opportunities to the marketplace, raise private capital. So I bring limited partners in on that side of the business to provide the capital to buy the property, do our capital improvements, run and operate the property, whatever else goes into that, right? Can someone 1031 exchange into a syndication?
They can, as long as it is classified as a Delaware Statutory Trust or DST. That allows, the IRS has recognized DSTs, syndications, as exchangeable property. And the reason they do that is because of the way that the title is held. The investors are considered like tenants in common. So they're fractional interest shares in the property, but they're fractional interest in the underlying property, not in like a trust. So REITs don't qualify because they have an interest share in the actual trust, whereas the DST, they have a fractional interest share in the underlying property.
So on that note, do I have to structure my entire deal I'm doing as a DST, or can I carve out a portion of that as a DST where we would take 1031 investors into that?
From the syndication standpoint, from like
Yeah.
your side?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm sure you can. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you can carve out a certain portion of that. It depends on how you own it. I think you can, but I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
I don't know the answer either. That's
Yeah.
why I asked the question, because it just
I mean, and people can go into, like, DSTs can be multiple properties too. So you may go into a multiple property DST where there's, 5 properties in a portfolio, and you're buying underlying property of all of those. So there's different ways to slice and dice it.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask this question, and I'm not sure how to frame it, but is there any protection for, let's say that a seller sells their property and the intermediary takes those funds from the sale of that property, they're sitting on it. What if all of a sudden that seller gets a judgment against him, or has some tax implication or something like that? Is that money from that trade, from that sale, protected with the intermediary, or is it open to scrutiny? I'm hoping I'm asking the question.
Yeah. So, I mean, from an exchange standpoint, we can't pledge the money or use the money for anything. From our standpoint, we can't use the money for anything other than a purchase of a replacement property. So they either purchase the replacement. The only time we'll ever disperse the funds is if they purchase a replacement property or their exchange fails.
Got it.
Now, we personally, because we are bank owned, we personally hold those proceeds in the client's name and tax ID number. So the bank account is actually opened under their information. We just have control of it. So whether or not it can get seized, it probably could be, because it's, again, under their tax ID number.
Got it.
And that's how we hold the funds. Some QIs may do it differently, but we hold them for insurance purposes, for the FDIC insurance purposes, and to making sure that those clients know that those funds are theirs. They're segregated from all the other funds.
So,
but we wouldn't release them otherwise.
You mentioned exchange fails. So let's say that you're 170 days, 180, 175 days into the exchange. You're supposed to close tomorrow, but for whatever reason, that deal's not going to close and you're not going to meet the 180-day mark.
That's tragic.
That's not what I wanted to hear, but
I know. There's not the only time that you can extend beyond the 180 days outside of like a safe harbor is if the IRS has issued some sort of natural disaster or something like that. So during COVID was a great example. Hurricane Ian was another good example. They issued extensions on 1031 exchanges. So they issued extensions on the 180 days. They issued extensions on the 45 days. So they issued extensions on those nationally declared disasters.
Wow, that's interesting. I never knew that. So that's interesting to understand that they can do that, and they have done it. Because I think
they did 4 of them this year. None of them fell in any of the areas that I was dealing with. Some in California with like wildfires is another big one. Obviously, the hurricanes in Florida are really big ones, and up and down the East Coast. So I'm sure they're going to probably do it for the disaster area, the tornadoes in. I want to say Mississippi, but I might be wrong. But they were just tornadoes. I have a feeling they're going to issue disaster areas there as well.
Yeah.
That they'll allow extensions to happen. So yeah, COVID, they issued extensions, just a blanket across the entire country. So,
Wow.
but unless there isn't a disaster and an extension issued, you're bound by the 180 days. If you get to the 180th day and, something happens, the seller that you're buying from doesn't show up and is sick and doesn't pass papers that day, you're out of luck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's harsh.
Well, it's interesting to know that there's this process out there. Hey, this has been great this morning. Thank you. I appreciate you taking time on the weekend to be here. How do people get a hold of you? And I have 3 bonus questions for you, but how do people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you?
Thank you. It was really nice seeing you and talking with you this morning. So easiest way to get in touch with me is my email. It's mfitzpatrick@nbtc.com, or my cell phone. My office line always rings into my cell. So it is 781-569-1852.
Perfect. Say it again.
781-569-1852.
We'll make sure it's in the show notes anyhow. But
thank you.
Hey, so 3 bonus questions that I ask everybody. Best book you ever read?
Ooh, I'm going to say the Game of Thrones series.
Oh.
It was the whole series. I couldn't even tell you which book was the best. Loved them.
Okay. What'd you learn?
That I like some dark stuff. It's a little graphic and dark, but I couldn't put them down.
Oh, that's funny. Good for you.
I should say something like Catcher in the Rye, that it give me inspiration. Like I should say something like that, but I can't. I like the nonsense.
That was cool though. Everybody always says Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad Poor Dad or so that was
I want to sit on the beach mindless. I don't want to think about real estate all the time.
Oh, there you go. How about best restaurant?
Oyster House.
Really?
No, I'm just saying because we said it earlier.
I'm like, wow, that's funny.
I do like a good steakhouse. So we have Del Frisco's in Boston, and I do like a good steakhouse. Smith and Lewinsky's. Give me a good steakhouse any day.
Wow, good for you. All right, great. Love that protein. How about best tourist attraction?
Boston or otherwise?
Whatever you feel like.
Okay, I'm going Boston, Fenway all the way.
Oh, God.
Come on.
I love Fenway.
You go into Fenway, there's something so special about Fenway. Whether you're a baseball person or not, you can't beat Fenway.
Well, I think it's the only park in the country that's original. Wrigley Field has been rebuilt and modified and I don't know what else in the country, and I love baseball, but I don't know what else in the country is not, pretty much original like that.
Yeah. You can't beat Fenway. Fenway is pretty special.
I was impressed when I went there. So, hey, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate you.
Mike.
And I'm going to move you to the back room. Say goodbye. If you hang out with me for a minute, that'd be great.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Stand by. Hey, everybody. That was great this morning. I learned some things. I hope you learned some things. But the 1031 exchange can be a powerful tool for you in your real estate investing journey. Whether you are doing multifamily, single family, whatever asset class you're in, makes no difference as long as you're doing a like kind exchange, right? And there are, there's some rules and some hoops you have to jump through, but the benefits are helping you accelerate that creation of wealth for yourself. Because the one thing with 1031 is you get to use all the money and you're not paying those taxes up front. So if you have any questions, need anything, reach out to Michelle. If I can answer anything for you, reach out to me. We're here every Saturday morning, Multifamily Unplugged, 10 a.m. Tell somebody about us this week and come and get more information, more knowledge, grow your investing journey. Remember, like us, love us on social media, and follow us on YouTube. I'll look forward to seeing everybody next